So part of Nat-Free Geography is looking at the physical environments, and the physical environment we're going to look at today is rivers. So we are going to look at river features, the courses it's split into, and then we're going to look at how specifically one of the features in one of the courses is formed. So, and I need to move myself out of the road. This might happen a lot. So a river is divided into three parts. We've got the upper course, the middle course, and the lower course. And the key part of each one is that the upper course has this steep gradient. So it's very steep. It is the start of a river way up in the hills. The middle course is a much gentler gradient. So it's a bit flatter. The river's a bit bigger and a bit deeper. And then we've got the lower course, which is right where the river meets the sea, so it's the flattest course and it's the biggest part of the river. So if you think about the lower course of the River Forth is round about Edinburgh and Portobello, where the land is pretty flat. So you've got different kind of forms of erosion which forms different features in the river. So the upper course has vertical erosion, which is down the way, so it creates kind of these steep valleys. The middle course has lateral erosion, where the sides of the river erode away and create river cliffs and river beaches and stuff. And then at the lower course, that's where everything that's been collected and scraped away is then dumped and deposited down there. And the main features are in this kind of column here, and the actual one we're going to focus on is waterfalls. We're going to focus on how waterfalls are formed. So here we have the upper course. We can see the river starts way high up in the mountains, so all the rain collected, the snow melts, and the river, or the source as it's called, starts to flow down. We've got these interlocking spurs, which just means kind of the hills can, if you looked at them, could kind of slide in each other. They kind of connect quite well, these rolling, flowing hills. We've got a gorge here, and some of you might have been gorge walking, and then we've got waterfall, and we're going to look at how that's formed slightly later on. The middle course, much flatter. We can tell it's much flatter because we've got some farm activity here, which can't take place on a hill because it's so steep. What we've got is the erosion side to side, and we've got the river starts to bend and snake, and these bends are called meanders. And what we've got is the erosion round here takes this material away and makes this nice and steep, so it's called a river cliff. And then as it comes down and the water starts to slow down on this side, we've got a river beach. So all the material that's scraped away here on the inside of the bend is then deposited on the outside of another bend, creating this kind of river beach. And you can fully stand on this and get really quite close to the river at this section. The last bit then is the lower course, and it's the biggest course, and the bit where the river meets the sea is called the estuary. We've got more farming activity, and we've also got a higher risk of flooding. So the floodplain is the area where if the river was to flood, that's where it's reach. Notice that the farm is nowhere near the floodplain because that would ruin all the crops. What happens over time is the river always takes the easiest path, and we get parts of rivers that are broken off, and it's called an oxbow lake. So, formation of a waterfall then. Now this is important you pay close attention to this, because this is going to be part of your assessment. So, I'm going to move myself over to this side, alright? So the first thing that happens is the river flows over bands of softer and harder rock. And from our diagram here, we can see that the hard rock is this dark grey colour, and the soft rock is this kind of light brown colour with stones in it. So what happens is the river flows over hard rock and then onto soft rock, alright? That then leads to the softer rock being eroded more quickly. Think of it wearing away more quickly, so it kind of is much easier to rub away and erode. The river undercuts the harder rock, leaving an overhang. So what happens is, if you look at this bit in the middle, this bit here is eroded away and eroded away and eroded away, and we're left with this bit of hard rock sticking out and overhanging over the edge. The river forms a plunge pool below the waterfall, which is kind of here. So any rocks that are eroded away and broken off are kind of constantly getting swished about in there, making this deeper and further, which we can see in this diagram here, the third one. So the overhanging rock eventually over time becomes unsupported because it's too big and falls into the plunge pool. What that does is it gives it more rocks to then scrape against the softer rock, and that process continues to happen daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. It never really stops. Alright, and then the waterfall is moved upstream. So when you've got your overhanging rock, so say my fingers here, the wiggling ones, are overhanging, what happens is it eventually falls. So the waterfall is coming down here, the water, it falls and then it kind of starts, it moves back, it starts here. If you imagine that's fall, the new waterfall moves back. This whole process repeats and eventually you get a waterfall moving back upstream towards the source, and that's kind of gap of where the waterfall used to be and where it is now is called the gorge, and it's cut into the hillside. Hope that makes sense, but if you have any questions on that, jump into the posts part of the team and ask any questions in there. Alright, so land use in these areas then, we have hydroelectric power in the upper course, we've got reservoirs, we've got tourism, we've got farming and we've got forestry. Now all of these happen in the upper course because the upper course is very steep, the soil is very poor, so farming can't happen, you can't really build anything. It's a great place to put a dam so that all the water collects in the V-shaped valley, and if there is any farming, what they do is they usually stick sheep way up in the hills because they're pretty tough with their woolly coats, and they don't feel the cold weather as much. Land use in the middle course, so we've got farming again. It's slightly different, it's not just sheep farming, it's a mixture of dairy farming and arable farming. Dairy farming is your cows, arable farming is your crops. The flatter land makes it easier, the weather's better. There's loads of tourism such as fishing, but fishing is also a source of income because people can catch the fish and sell them on, as well as make people pay for permits to the river. The lower course, again farming in the lower course like we've seen from our first diagram, but the big land use here is industry. So if we think about Glasgow, there's a shipbuilding industry on this part of the river, so they can build ships, put them in the river and then go straight out to sea. If we think about the River Forth in Edinburgh, we've got the huge oil refinery at Grangemouth, and anything that needs to be transported by sea, there's loads of docks along rivers where boats can come in, the river's deep enough for the boats and they can go back out to sea and transport things all around the world. So now what I want you to do is head to your OneNote page and complete the tasks related to this lesson. You can watch this as many times as you need to. You can pause it to help you complete the task. But if you do have any questions, as always, stick them in the posts part of the team and someone will get back to answer you and help you out.